Hello once again, Lifesite friends, and a blessed Advent to you all. This is such a special day as I want to not introduce, but reintroduce to you my colleague, Danielle Zuccaro. Danielle, first of all, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Jim.
It's so good to be here with you today.
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me to the studio.
So many of you may already, surely you've seen Danielle. She's been a reporter for a couple of years now, one of the many hats that she wears here at Lifesite. But Danielle is our sustainer coordinator. Is that your official title?
Yeah, sustain life coordinator.
Yeah, so she works in our development department. So Danielle knows many of you already. But I wanted to bring Danielle on the set today to talk about your evangelistic work, Danielle. Because I have been privileged to do some volunteer work for what you do. So just tell us about where you work. You're out there in the trenches, and this is what you do as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And what you do is extraordinary. So if you'll just kind of take us to Fredericksburg and tell us what is going on there, because there is something amazing happening in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Yeah. Well, God is really, really good, because my two passions in life are pro-life and evangelization. And for my day job, I get to work in the pro-life, pro-family movement. And, outside of that, my free time is on the ground with college students and helping to lead them to the faith. And so I spend a lot of my time on the ground, as you said, front lines, with campus ministry students, and also so at the college where I graduated, Mary Washington, helping out there at the Catholic campus ministry, helping to teach RCIA, helping to mentor young girls, helping to teach people how to pray, helping to form students during such a difficult time as a Christian or as a Catholic. It was on campus from the years of 18 to 22. And then in another organization called the Associates of St. John Bosco, where we link high school students to Catholic campus ministries and other Catholics on their campuses in order to give them a community before they arrive on campus.
So you really kind of have the double whammy right
truly.
There in Fredericksburg with the campus ministry at Mary Washington College, and then Associates of St. John Bosco, which is not just for Mary Washington College or Mary Washington University students.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we serve primarily this diocese, but students, go to schools all over the country, and even we have some abroad this semester. So we're reaching students who live in this area, but who are going to colleges elsewhere, and helping them to get grounded and to get connected with students who are also Catholic on their campuses.
Well, Danielle, let's back up a little bit to your college experience, because it was that profound experience you had while you were on that campus that was the genesis for all of this.
Yeah, definitely. So I went to Mary Washington wanting to get involved in the campus ministry, but really just for the sake of making friends, let's be honest. Yeah. So, and then it wasn't until my junior year when I really started to deepen in my faith and started to learn how to pray. And that was like the first inkling the first instance, I should say, where I started seeing God at work in my life, was learning how to pray, seeing how through prayer He speaks to us and leads us down different paths that we may not have considered before, which is really how I've gotten here today, is just by the power of prayer. And then really started in my junior year mentoring students who were younger than me, who had really no concept of Christianity, some of them. And it was through discovering what my charisms were, what my passions were, and discovering that evangelization was something really on my heart, and leading college students during this tumultuous time, leading them in the faith. And so that was really when the seeds of the desires that God had planted in my heart really started to take root. And so throughout the rest of my time in college, I continued mentoring, and then that's when I started to lead the RCIA or help lead RCIA, and got more and more involved in meeting students, particularly young women, and mentoring them in the faith. So,
you talked about prayer, and I think that's something we all know, right? Like, it's important to pray. How do you teach young, unchurched people how to pray?
Good question. Well, I start in the chapel typically, and you really have to speak to what they're seeking. So oftentimes they're seeking peace, they're seeking relationship, they're seeking love. And in the chapel at Mary Washington, we have a chapel with the Blessed Sacrament, and I lead them in there and really have to start from the basics. I mean, you have to imagine most people have, at 18 years old, have never been taught really the basics of prayer. And so I teach them very, very simple prayers to start off with. Something as simple as a 5-finger prayer. So we learn all the different types of prayer: adoration, praise, thanksgiving, petition. So, just getting them comfortable with silence is the other part of it. So just sitting in the silence, we'll just do like 5 or 10 minutes, and getting them used to being calm and to having an interior peace. And so I don't start off with very much time in there, but just to get them, attuned to God's voice in silence is really the starting block. And then later on, I'll go into like praying with scripture, which is one I do a lot. I meet up with students 15 minutes before Mass most Sundays and just pray over the gospel reading for that Sunday. But it's just a way of centering them, and really silence is the biggest learning curve, I think you have to say, because our world is so noisy, and they always have their earbuds in. So you have to really get people used to being silent. So that's the biggest thing, but that's the first place to start.
That's really interesting, because that's a struggle for most of us. I mean, let's be honest. We are controlled by all of our devices. And so when did you identify that as being the place to start? Because, in my training, so I've only been Catholic less than 4 years. I kind of read my way into the Catholic Church, but the way that we always evangelized people when I was an evangelical was, you find time to get with somebody and you start with the Bible, and you're trying to either convince them of the truths of the faith, but that you actually take them to the chapel and let them have silence. Yeah. That's really counterintuitive.
Yeah, especially for college students, right? So it's funny you ask that. That was something that the priest of the campus ministry identified in me and said, that's your charism. So we're all given gifts at baptism, and which are strengthened in confirmation. And when I was continuously, I don't know, that was the first place I just happened to take people, but it was sort of innate. I don't really know how to explain it other than the fact that it was definitely a gift and something where I was inspired to just do that all the time. So that is the only explanation I really have.
It's really fascinating. Why do you think it's effective? It's almost as if they yearn for this and they don't even know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, because I think they yearn, like I said, peace and relationship, which is ultimately, you can find it there. God is relationship, and true love. And in silence, that's where you find it. That's where you find it. So that's where I found it. And in adoration specifically. So I think that's attractive to young people because it's so not of the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, when you told me this ministry that you're involved with, and it was a couple of years ago, and I went up to Mary Washington College, and I was working for you at the time as a volunteer, and I was knocked out just by the sheer number of students you had in that first week on campus in the fall, and you have this incredible procession through a public university. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Danielle, how and we're talking, there was a couple hundred people that were participating in that event. How much has the Catholic ministry on campus grown?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, just tremendously in the last decade. I've been involved with that community since I was a freshman, which would have been almost a decade ago. And so the Catholic community there on one of the most secular, liberal, hostile campuses.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, the campus, I have to say, is it's open to allowing the Catholics to do that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that's a beautiful thing. It's hard for students of faith because, you know, college campuses everywhere are hard for people of faith. But yeah, the campus ministry leads a procession of the Eucharist through campus, and then there's all-night adoration in the center of campus. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And students have been powerfully impacted by it.
And I was powerfully impacted by that. I was just not prepared to see that. And then they go and they have this all-night adoration right in the middle of this campus. I was just blown away, Danielle. How can these lessons be learned and applied elsewhere?
Well, I think that it's a crucial time to teach college students the faith because I often think of their faith as sort of like seed being thrown on rocky ground because it can just get choked, you know, we're in these hostile situations. But I think the college campus is sort of a microcosm for the world in the sense that, like, you know, in people's workplaces currently, the faith is also trying to be choked out. In, you know, Hollywood, of course, it's choked out. So, but I think that faithful people can make inroads. I really do think. I mean, I think by being a witness ourselves, but also deliberately, you know, speaking to people and speaking to people's desires. Like, people want to be known and they want peace. They want to be loved. So to be able to speak to those things that are common in all humans, you know, I think that it's applicable in any sphere, you know, whether that be the campus or off elsewhere.
Yeah. Now, so let's just say, you know, I show up at campus as a freshman or transfer in or something. I find out about this. Maybe, you know, I grew up in the church and I've heard this is a good group. I come to check it out and I see it and it looks great, but then you got to keep them there. Then it's like, because they're going to be pulled in so many different directions. How do you keep them from freshman to senior year?
You tell me. It's a good question. Right. It's a very good question. It's hard. It's become so difficult these days. Well, just in the past, since I graduated till now, it's gotten harder and harder to do outreach to college students because, yes, they're pulled in a multitude of ways. I have to say people's commitment, they're less committed to, especially to things of faith. They're far less committed, and COVID has made things actually a little bit difficult as well. People are, it's hard to say, but people's faith has definitely declined. So faith is not even a priority anymore. So that's made things very, very difficult. And so just trying to get through to people to realize, I mean, I was thinking of this earlier. When people arrive on campus, they have tons of priorities. Faith may be one of them, but it's most often not number one. And so when you're doing outreach to students, you have to help them realign their priorities to make it number one. And often that comes with a lot of trial. It often comes with maybe a lot of darkness for the person, you know? So it's not always end game where you see someone as a freshman and then they're necessarily going to be there as a senior. I mean, I still do outreach to seniors who are just starting to try to make those small moves of faith. So it's very, very difficult, but it's persistence, and it's also getting to know the person as a person and really showing them that you care. And that's really what they seek and what they long for. So that's what I've found when you speak heart to heart with these people. That's what I have found is the most, that's the game changer for getting people to stay longer.
Right. It's like they have to, you're showing them that in order for them to care what you know, they have to know that you care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So what are you hearing, Danielle, when you're sitting at the coffee shop and you're having your one-on-ones? What are the things that you consistently hear from them?
That's a good question. So the general feel is that, the classroom is a hard place to be a Christian.
Yep.
Sin is rampant on all of these campuses, whether you're, a conservative campus or not, there's sin.
Yep.
And the struggle is very, very real for Christians and Catholics and people of faith. And then the temptation to finding friends is people's number one thing. And they'll almost do anything. And that's the real harm.
Right.
And sort of where Catholics or we have to realize that and be true friends to these people, because the temptation to just be accepted is where people can really lead down a bad spiral, and I've seen that too. And it's amazing to me how just the simple desire of wanting to be in company, communion with other people, even if the people, even if they knowingly are not good influences, it's amazing how people can just accept that and go along with it. So I think that's the number one thing that students are in need of and looking for, especially as freshmen.
So
for sure.
You're on a journey with them for 4 years.
Yeah, you really are. You really are. So, and look, I'm just an alumna who, comes back to serve the students. I am just a lay woman alumna. So it's really, I'm no one special. There's a lot of us alumni actually who are doing similar things, alumni leading Bible studies, alumni, as part of the discernment group and stuff. So there's a lot of us who are really serving the young people because now is really a time that they need older mentors.
Okay. So what else does it take? So we've talked about taking them to the chapel and letting them experience, that threshold moment of just going into a chapel and experiencing that quiet and learning a little bit about prayer. You have your one-on-ones with them. What else? It's do you try to go for the push it across the goal line first and say, oh, okay, we prayed in the chapel, now let's do all this other stuff? So
if you think about it, the chapel is beauty.
Yep.
Then you have goodness, where you're sitting with them, meeting with them, just getting to know their heart. And then the third thing is truth. So truth, beauty, and goodness. And the truth comes at a certain time. You can, as you're getting to talk to people, you realize what their struggles are, where they might have inconsistencies with with the way that the faith teaches. And so, being able to share the truth in true charity is a good thing to do. And so, a lot of the meetings that I have with people are either in my RCIA group, and so we meet one-on-one with those students to, walk with them and to see are there any teachings that you're struggling with? Can we parse those out? Can we discuss those? I had one student several years ago whose real issue was divorce because there was divorce in the person's family, and that was something we had to spend a lot of meetings on, And so those are, you don't water it down, but you are able to see where the person's coming from and then to present the truth in true charity.
But Danielle, isn't it interesting though that this student was able to point to divorce as being such a painful thing?
Yeah.
It's like I forgot who said it, but divorce is societal suicide.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's actually the point I tried to make was, I don't think that, society's better because of divorce, and it was a real struggle for the person. So, but in all of these dealings, you really do see, I have to say, a breakdown of the family is at the core.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, when students are formed, or not formed, leading up to when they head off to college, that really is a huge influence in how they end up.
Right.
Now, it's not a deal breaker, because I know people who were totally unformed who have major conversions in college, and that's a huge grace from God. But the lack of formation across the board, not even just in families, but like in parochial schools and CCD programs, is really impacting our young people in a huge way,
right,
and not a good way.
Yeah, because if they're not informed in the gospel of the Lord, they're going to be catechized in the gospel of the world.
Exactly.
And with that comes like how big of a problem is the LGBT agenda, and how you see that impacting these students who even those who think of themselves as being virtuous.
It's huge. It is absolutely huge. I mean, it's invaded every sector of the campus, on all campuses. So not just one in particular. It is in your dorm room. It's in the initiation, like when you come in onto campus, they have like all the freshmen meet in the big hall, and they go through, freshman orientation. That's what it is. It's presented right there. The classrooms, they want your pronouns and everything. And that's very, very difficult for students to stand up. But I've known students who, they refuse to go along with that, which is awesome. It's a great witness. But the LGBT agenda has infiltrated everything at this point. It's amazing. It is amazing.
Really, all these things are connected, aren't they? It's the LGBT agenda that goes right along with the abortion agenda.
Yeah.
And all these things that are part of this culture of death.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I remember as a freshman sitting in my freshman orientation, I'll never forget this. They said that they had free condoms in the health center, and they said, we don't want you to be chased or anything. That's a direct quote. We don't want you to be chased or anything. And that shocked me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That
was
thing.
That was 8 or 10 years ago. That was a direct quote. So.
Wow. So, Danielle, what you've been talking about is mostly the Catholic campus ministry there on campus, but you're also part of another ministry that is absolutely amazing, because I volunteer for that too. So I know, I've seen. Tell us about the Associates of St. John Bosco.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit primarily located in the Northern Virginia area that seeks to really bridge the gap from high school, like when you graduate, to college, because there's a crucial time period where students are graduating from Catholic schools, or they're graduating and finishing up youth ministry programs, but they're not being linked to campus ministry or the next stage of faith formation. And so what we try to do is to bridge the gap, both with student-to-student, peer-to-peer connections, and also through our events, which give students the resources, the connections, and the student testimonies to help them make that leap into their campus ministry.
Did this start at Mary Washington and then branch out? Or?
No, so it started in the diocese with a diocesan priest, and just kind of was a calling, really, because there was a need. So it's completely independent. I just happened to be involved with both because that's also the way God works, where there was a passion for evangelization, a passion for young people, and really he kind of molded my path to allow me to be involved in both.
Now, where can people go to learn about Associates of St. John Bosco?
Yeah, so you can go online to asjb.org, and we're also on Instagram and Facebook.
And how many campuses do you serve, or not campuses, but students, like where are these students?
Right. So they're students from the Northern Virginia area. So last summer we served 105. The year before was 100, even in the midst of COVID. That's when you came, in the midst of COVID. So we've served in total since we started our college night program, which are the events. We've served over 500 students and going to many, many, many colleges. So last year our colleges numbered about 30 to 35 colleges that students went to. So all across the U.S., we have a girl in Spain right now too. So they're going to many, many different colleges and getting connected with their campus ministries.
Wow.
And then coming back to help our students in the next years. So they're coming back as speakers, as volunteers, as mentors to our younger students.
Right. And you've had some marriages come out of these things.
We have.
Yes, right.
We've had a few marriages, which is really, really awesome. And a few vocations too. So one entered the Discalced Carmelites, and another entered the Nashville Dominicans in the last couple of years. So it's really awesome.
Danielle, where do you get your hope?
Well, my hope comes from St. Paul, where he says, where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. And I know our readers and our viewers can look around and be incredibly hopeless because there's sin abounding. So, but I think that's only in the visible reality. And if grace abounds all the more, then the heavenly reality must be amazing. So I really, truly believe that for all of the good that's happening, there's ripple effects.
Yes.
And there is that with sin too. But I really think that the ripple effects are long-lasting, and they're impacting people, and that souls are being saved because of the grace.
Amen. And you know what? God has called us to live in this time right now.
That's right. That's right.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity right now to put our hands to the plow, because he needs frontline workers. He needs people to evangelize and to be him for other people.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Yeah, because we can get just so distracted with all just this crazy world that we live in now. But we're still called. We are still called to be witnesses for our Lord and Savior.
That's right. And
everything that we need, like the grace is waiting for us.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
It's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I love about being Catholic sometimes. You know, when I can go to confession and then I receive the Eucharist. There's nothing like it in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a supernatural, it's a gift that we've been given. And that's why I just want people, you know, everybody to be able to know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And for young people as well, to know that grace is real and that grace will make you come alive.
That's right, Danielle, because it sparks this creativity. And boy, I've really seen that since I've landed here in Front Royal. My wife and I just went to this Christmas fair down at this winery, wonderful winery we have here, Rappahannock Cellars, which is owned by a Catholic family. And they brought in these artists. They just brought in local artists. And I think most of them were Catholic. And the work that they were doing was just sublime. Yeah. I mean, it was beautiful, and we spent a lot of money, you know, like buying some of this beautiful artwork. And and it's just all around you. It just like that's what I have to say. Like becoming Catholic and being Catholic, not just becoming Catholic, but trying to live with everything the church gives us. It's like the whole world takes on a different view.
Yeah.
Everything is in Technicolor.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then you have to put on the heavenly reality sunglasses, and then you can really see. That's what I always think. If we could only look with spiritual lenses at the whole world, I think we'd see a very different reality, both the good and the bad, because it's all in the spiritual realm,
That's right. And, all of this, all of the global tyranny that we're experiencing and all this, it's all prophecy. Mm-hmm. It's all right there. Mm-hmm. In the book of Revelation. See, I still sound like an evangelical. I'll say the book of Revelation. When you're a Catholic, it's like it's in the apocalypse, right? Or, but you know what else it says? Jesus wins.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. That's the hope that I cling to.
Yes. Well, Danielle, you are such a warrior. You're such a pro-life warrior. You're such a light. You're doing exactly what God called you to do. And we all know that here at Lifesite. And a lot of people in Fredericksburg, Virginia know that about you too. So I'm so honored to be your colleague. And I just continue to pray for all God's blessings on your campus ministry at Mary Washington, the Associates of St. John Bosco. Don't forget to go on that website. Check it out. ASJB.org.
Yes.
.org.
That's right.
Great stuff. Danielle, Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me again.
Okay.